What if I told you that while Caesar was conquering Europe, there was an African queen so fierce, so strategically brilliant, that she made Rome tremble? A woman who lost an eye in battle, but gained something far more valuable: the respect of an empire that had never met its match. Most people know about Cleopatra when they think of powerful African queens who challenged Rome. But there's another story, one that's been buried in the shadows of history for over 2,000 years. The story of Queen Candace of Kush, a ruler whose military genius was so formidable that Augustus Caesar himself had to swallow his pride and negotiate peace terms that favored her kingdom over his empire. Here's what makes this story absolutely mind-blowing. Rome never negotiated as equals. They conquered, they dominated, they demanded tribute. But when they met Queen Candace, everything they know about warfare got turned upside down. In this video, I'm going to share how this one-eyed warrior queen used tactics so innovative that Roman historians are still trying to understand how she outmaneuvered the world's most powerful military machine. Before we dive deeper, let me ask you something. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from and how the weather is treating you today. I love connecting with our community from all corners of the world. Now, here's where the story gets interesting. Around 25 BCE, Roman forces marched south into Nubia, confident they were about to add another territory to their expanding empire. They had conquered Britain, Gaul, and most of the Mediterranean. What could possibly stop them now? Queen Candace. But this wasn't just any royal figurehead sitting pretty in a palace. Candace, and this is crucial, was both a title and a name. The women who bore this title were trained warriors from childhood. They weren't just political leaders. They were military strategists who led from the front lines. And our Queen Candace had already proven herself in battle, bearing the scars to show for it, including the loss of her right eye in combat. When Roman prefect Petronius invaded her territory, expecting the usual quick victory, he walked straight into what military historians now call one of the most sophisticated defensive campaigns in ancient warfare. Queen Candace didn't just fight back. She revolutionized desert warfare in ways that would influence military strategy for centuries. Here's what she did that was absolutely genius. Instead of meeting Rome's legions head-on, where their superior numbers and discipline would crush her forces, she turned the desert itself into her greatest weapon. Her armies would strike Roman supply lines, then vanish into the landscape like smoke. When Romans gave chase, they found themselves lost in terrain that Candace's forces knew like the back of their hands. But the masterstroke? She captured the Roman garrison at Syene, modern-day Aswan, and took prisoners. Not to execute them, not to demand ransom, but to send a message that would echo through the halls of power in Rome. We are not your typical enemy. What topic in African history baffles you the most? Drop it in the comments below, and I'll research it for our next deep dive together. The Romans were bewildered. Their standard tactics of intimidation, siege warfare, and overwhelming force meant nothing against an enemy who refused to fight by their rules. Queen Candace's forces would appear like ghosts, strike with devastating precision, then disappear before Roman reinforcements could respond. Archaeological evidence from Meroe, her capital city, reveals something that should give you chills: weapons and armor that show clear signs of Roman craftsmanship. She wasn't just defeating Roman forces, she was capturing their equipment and reverse engineering their technology to use against them. Roman historian Strabo, writing about these campaigns, describes something unprecedented in Roman military annals. Roman forces retreating not because they were outnumbered, but because they were outsmarted. Queen Candace had done something no other enemy had accomplished. She made Rome's greatest strength, their military machine, work against them. The psychological warfare was equally brilliant. Ancient sources describe how she would appear on the battlefield wearing distinctive armor, her war-scarred face inspiring her troops while striking fear into Roman hearts. Roman soldiers, accustomed to facing enemies who fought conventionally, found themselves demoralized by an opponent who seemed to know their every move before they made it. But here's where the story takes an extraordinary turn. After months of guerrilla warfare that was bleeding Roman resources dry, something unprecedented happened. Augustus Caesar, the most powerful man in the world, sent envoys to negotiate with Queen Candace. Not to demand her surrender, not to dictate terms, to negotiate as equals. Think about that for a moment. This is Caesar Augustus we're talking about, the man who had defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra, who had expanded Roman territory to its greatest extent, and he was asking an African queen for a peace treaty. The negotiations took place on the island of Samos, and when you read the terms of the treaty that emerged, it's absolutely stunning. Rome agreed to withdraw from Nubian territory, return prisoners without ransom, and establish fixed boundaries that favored Kush. In exchange, Candace agreed to stop her raids and respect Roman territory to the north. But here's the detail that shows you exactly who held the real power in these negotiations. Rome agreed to pay tribute to prevent future conflicts. Let me repeat that Rome, the empire that collected tribute from conquered nations, agreed to pay tribute to Queen Candace. If this story is touching your spirit the way it's touching mine, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Your subscription means the world to me, as this channel is still young and growing, and every subscriber helps us preserve these powerful stories that deserve to be remembered. Roman records show that the peace treaty with Queen Candace held for over 3 centuries. 300 years of peace along a border that had previously seen constant conflict. That's not just military success. That's diplomatic genius that created lasting stability. But what makes Queen Candace truly remarkable isn't just that she defeated Rome militarily. It's that she understood something that most of Rome's enemies never grasped. The real victory wasn't in destroying Roman forces, but in making continued conflict too costly for Rome to justify. Archaeological excavations in ancient Meroe reveal the fruits of this strategic thinking. During and after the Roman conflicts, the kingdom of Kush experienced unprecedented prosperity. Trade routes that had been disrupted by warfare reopened and flourished. Construction projects that rivaled anything in the Mediterranean began rising from the desert sands. Queen Candace had achieved what every ruler dreams of but few accomplish. She had turned military necessity into lasting prosperity for her people. The resources that might have been spent on endless warfare were instead invested in infrastructure, trade, and cultural development that would define Nubian civilization for generations. Here's something that will absolutely blow your mind. Recent archaeological discoveries have uncovered evidence of advanced metallurgy and engineering in Queen Candace's kingdom that was, in some respects, more sophisticated than contemporary Roman technology. Her people weren't just fierce warriors. They were innovators whose technical achievements were helping to drive their military success. The weapons found in Nubian archaeological sites from this period show evidence of superior iron-working techniques. The fortifications built during her reign employed architectural principles that wouldn't become common in European military engineering for centuries. Queen Candace wasn't just fighting Rome. She was out innovating them. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of Queen Candace's legacy is what happened to the institution of female rulership in Kush after her success. Roman sources document a succession of powerful Candaces who ruled Kush for the next several centuries, each building on the foundation of military and diplomatic success established by their predecessor. This wasn't an accident. Queen Candace had created a template for female leadership that proved women could not only rule effectively, but could outmaneuver the world's most powerful empire. Her success became the blueprint for a dynasty of warrior queens who would dominate the Upper Nile for centuries. Roman attitudes toward Nubian rulers also underwent a fundamental shift. Before Queen Candace, Roman sources typically described African rulers in dismissive, often derogatory terms. After their encounters with her, Roman historians begin writing about Nubian royalty with genuine respect, acknowledging their sophistication and strategic capabilities. The ripple effects extended far beyond military matters. Trade relationships between Rome and Kush, established through the peace treaty, brought unprecedented wealth to both civilizations. Nubian gold, ivory, and exotic animals flowed north, while Roman manufactured goods and luxury items moved south. Queen Candace had transformed a military confrontation into an economic partnership that enriched both empires. What part of Queen Candace's story intrigues you the most? Was it her innovative military tactics that turned the desert into her ally? Her diplomatic genius that forced Rome to negotiate as equals? Or perhaps the way she used victory to build lasting prosperity for her people? Share your thoughts in the comments. I love hearing which aspects of these powerful stories resonate most deeply with you. The historical evidence suggests that Queen Candace understood something that many ancient rulers missed. True power isn't just about winning battles, it's about creating conditions where your people can thrive for generations. The peace treaty with Rome wasn't an end goal. It was a foundation for building something greater. Modern military historians studying Queen Candace's campaigns have identified tactics and strategies that wouldn't become standard practice in warfare until centuries later. Her use of mobility, her understanding of supply line vulnerabilities, her integration of intelligence gathering with tactical planning, these were innovations that were ahead of their time. But beyond the military genius, beyond the diplomatic triumphs, Queen Candace represents something profound about African leadership traditions that often gets overlooked in historical narratives. She embodied a model of leadership that was simultaneously fierce and wise, aggressive in defending her people while strategic in building their future. The archaeological record shows that during her reign and in the decades that followed, the kingdom of Kush experienced a cultural renaissance. Art, architecture, and literature flourished in ways that suggest a civilization confident in its power and secure in its future. Queen Candace hadn't just won a war. She had created the conditions for her civilization to reach new heights of achievement. When we look at the complete picture of Queen Candace's legacy, what emerges is a portrait of leadership that was revolutionary in its effectiveness. She took on the world's most powerful empire and not only survived the encounter, but emerged stronger than before. She turned military necessity into diplomatic opportunity, and diplomatic opportunity into lasting prosperity. The one-eyed warrior queen who made Rome tremble had accomplished something that echoes through history. She proved that true strength isn't measured by the size of your army or the extent of your territory, but by your ability to protect your people while building a future worthy of their greatness. Queen Candace's story challenges everything we know about power dynamics in the ancient world. It shows us that the narrative of unstoppable Roman expansion had exceptions, significant exceptions that reveal the complex realities of ancient African civilizations. Her success wasn't a fluke or an accident. It was the result of sophisticated military thinking, diplomatic insight, and leadership skills that rival any ruler in history. As we wrap up this remarkable story, let's remember what Queen Candace achieved. She faced down an empire that had conquered most of the known world, outmaneuvered their military machine, forced them to negotiate on her terms, and used that victory to create lasting prosperity for her people. She proved that leadership isn't about titles or territory. It's about the wisdom to know when to fight, when to negotiate, and when to build. The one-eyed warrior queen who fought Rome didn't just win battles. She won the future for her people. And that's a legacy that deserves to be remembered, celebrated, and passed on to the next generation.